Welcome to a special episode of the Sencast. My name is Dale Pickles. I'm the Managing Director of B Squared and the host of the Sencast, the podcast for special educational needs and disability. Each week we talk about a different topic in the world of special education needs to improve our knowledge, to provide support to professionals working in schools and to empower parents. This series of special episodes is to celebrate the award winners from the 2024 Nasen Awards, and in this episode my guests are Fearnley and Faye Ebbs from the Leaf Centre, who won the Alternative Provision of the Year category. This award was sponsored by Sensational Tutors. Jane is the CEO of Willow Tree Academy, a four-school MAT in Rotherham, and she's a national leader in education and was honoured to receive an OBE for her service to education in the Queen's Jubilee Honours in 2022. Faye has been a SENCO inclusion lead for 6 years, and over the last 3 years she has had the strategic overview of the setting up of the Leaf Centre, a specialist SEMH step-out provision. The Nasen Awards, organised by Nasen, celebrate outstanding contributions to the education and support of children and young people with SEND. These annual awards recognise individuals, schools and organisations that demonstrate exceptional commitment to inclusive education and the advancement of SEND practices. To find out more about the work Nasen does, their CPD and events, click on the links in the show notes. Now, let's get on with the podcast. In this week's show, Fearnley and Faye Ebbs from the Leaf Centre are here to discuss their work and why they won the Alternative Provision of the Year award. The Leaf Centre, based in Willow Tree Primary School, has been shortlisted for the positive impact that the therapeutic intervention support has had on attendance, reducing exclusions, providing early intervention and enabling academic progress. Over the last 2 years, allowing students to engage in a different environment before being reintegrated into school has led to a 7% increase in attendance rates. That's not a small feat. And despite pupils entering Leaf with attainment significantly below age rate expectations, the intensive support provided has enabled academic gains. Welcome to the show, Jane and Faye.
Hello. Thank you. Hi.
So, congratulations on winning the Alternative Provision of the Year award. And I have to ask the obvious question that everyone who wins an award gets asked: what does this recognition mean to you?
Okay, well, I guess on behalf of myself, from Jane, and the whole team, without them, none of this kind of would have happened. We're over the moon with this recognition. We're grateful for this opportunity to join yourself on here. And I suppose even when you know that you're doing the greater good for the children that we teach and at the Leaf Centre, I think this award, it kind of validates that, it commends that. And for us, that's really, really important.
Yeah. It had me down. I was actually dancing down the aisles, and I think that we'd struggled so long and so hard to get this provision up and running, that to have this belief in us as well, and for all our team, it was just such a wonderful thing to happen, because it then gave us more confidence, and we thought, yeah, there's people behind us here. People that are supporting us, people that understand, people that see our provision as vital, as a vital tier and step within that SEND journey.
Because obviously, the Leaf Centre has been going for how many years?
This is its third year. Yeah.
So you obviously had a reason to create the Leaf Centre.
Yes.
You obviously saw a challenge, an obstacle, a barrier for these students and went, I've got an idea. I think we can do something here. And you've kind of run with it. And it's great that actually you had the idea. And as you said, that external, it's working internally and it's great. But that external recognition really validates. And generally, it's, as so many people have said when they come on the podcast, it's not for me, it's for the entire team. Although you were the two people here podcasting and whoever was at the award ceremony, I can't remember, it was so long ago. It's the whole team. And you're probably getting the feedback from the parents, actually, what you're doing is great. So it just brings it all together, doesn't it?
It certainly does. And the vision really goes back to around 2018-19, so pre-COVID. And we were starting to get concerned about some of our children's social, emotional, mental health. and some of the difficulties. We serve our schools serve very deprived areas, so very disadvantaged children as well. And a lot of those children obviously do have SEND needs also. And we were part of a Nemesis European study with other schools across Europe, and it was about our children being change makers of tomorrow, and our staff being change makers of tomorrow, teachers and support staff. But it was all around co-creation. And we decided that we needed to do something different with our provision. So how do we meet the needs of the children that have got some real trauma in their lives, and how do we train our teachers and our support staff to be able to meet those needs? But we also realised that we needed sometimes for the children to step out and step back in. And we had an old caretaker's house that initially we were just going to renovate, and it got to the point in terms of cost where we decided that we probably needed to knock this down, and that's what we did. And even the funding was a challenge. Everything was a challenge from start to finish, really. But we stuck with it, and we fought for what we believed in. And the co-creation labs that came on that journey, we've got the police there, we've got the church there, we've got local councillors, local authority people who were supporting us on this journey, the children, the parents. So everybody was involved, and the architect would come to meetings, and the children would say, "We want this. We want an art space. We want a movement space. And although it's a very small building, what you can see in their designs is what's actually in the building now today."
I think in terms of, obviously that's the building and where it kind of came from, but on top of that, our kind of underpinning intent as well was to offer that initially, that step out, step back in, that reset button for some of those children who maybe, have some adverse childhood experiences, some trauma. The picture of SEMH was building locally, nationally, and we saw that quite clearly in our settings. So it kind of was a response to this, but wanting to get ahead of the game as well, and wanting to kind of offer something different to what was there already. Now, our trajectory over time naturally has had to change because the picture of SEMH, SEND is ever changing. So what started out, I guess, as us recognising challenge, as I'm sure many school staff experience and can kind of relate to, we kind of recognised that we needed to look more, at the opportunities for children with EHCPs and how we can support them. So actually our trajectory has changed and continues to change as the picture changes moving forward. So it's always a learning curve, isn't it, Jane?
Yeah.
But I think it's so rewarding at the same time. It's really useful.
I always find that you mentioned that one of my favourite words, Mo, is that intent, what your aim is. And that will stay constant. As you said, the next level down of the aims and the bits, the smaller details, that will constantly change as you said, SEMH and SEND needs change. And then but the intent, that overall intent stays the same. And that's the bit that drives you.
Absolutely. And the other thing that really drives us is that we want children to learn alongside their peers in their schools, in their community. That's what they deserve. And what we were finding more and more, and as I said, pre-COVID as well, was that children were going into an alternative provision, and that was it. They were sort of lost in that system. There was never any viewpoint that the children would go back to their home school. And we saw that as a vital missing link, really. And the LEAF stands for Leading Endeavours for Aspirational Futures. And that's what we wanted. We wanted our children to be able to have a life, that around social mobility, expectations, working with their parents to say, we aspire to this for your children. And I think parents found that refreshing and different and new, that someone actually cared enough to say, we want this for your children. We want what you want for your children as well.
Hugely. I think the relational approaches that we build with parents and families, and also that collaboration at the core of with the home schools. So where it might be at one of our academy schools or in the local authority, that the relationship we have with that school in ensuring that it's not a respite, it's not for these children to kind of but it's a reset. So for those children, they will come to us, they will have, this intense therapeutic offer alongside an engaging curriculum-based teacher-led model, which is definitely one of our unique selling points. And then to go back, but for something to have changed in the meantime, for us to have done work with that homeschool in order for changes to have been made to make it easier for that child, whereby they were facing challenges on a day-to-day basis before. What is different now? One, with, in the way the child manages, but also in how the school can learn to manage those behaviours and those presentations, not attributing it to the child. The behaviour isn't the child, it's a communication of something, a dysregulation, a need that is unmet. And obviously with this kind of microscopic look in the small centre, we can really get to the bottom of those triggers and kind of the deeper feelings to unpick and kind of move forward for these individuals.
Yeah, I was just going to say as well, alongside that, we offer outreach to the schools to enable them to develop their provision as well, so they can meet the needs of the children when they go back. And what we find is that increasingly new teachers into the profession, or teachers that have been in the profession a long time, are not equipped to deal with some of the behaviours that are being exhibited. They're not able to teach. Other children might not be able to learn alongside some of their peers that are exhibiting those sort of behaviours. So we saw that there was a real key to our work was to offer CPD in a non-threatening, we can support you way, and schools have taken that up. And there's obviously, with the national crisis in recruitment and retention, it's really important that we acknowledge that teaching is a tough job, and particularly for support staff, who will be working with these wonderful children. Their job is becoming more and more of a challenge, and many people are saying it's not a challenge I want. So from a strategic leadership role for myself and for Faye, it's very much about, well, how do we do this? They were the big questions for us in making sure that we've got an educational system that works for the future.
I like the fact with the acronym LEAF. I thought it would just be it's a nice word, LEAF, and we've got a maple leaf or something on the front. But I like the fact you've got the word aspiration in there.
Yeah.
And for a lot of children with SEMH difficulties, they've already been written off by their school. They are the disruptive child. I don't want them in my classroom. They've already been written off. So to come to the LEAF Centre and have people believe in you is probably quite a shift for that child. And for those parents that actually maybe for the last however many months, every communication has been negative. It's been negative, negative, negative. It's not going to be a happy relationship between the child and the parent. Lots of negativity. It just grows more and more negativity. So it's literally to come somewhere and go, yeah, you're struggling in school, but we can help. You can be a change maker in the future. We want you to succeed, and we're going to help you to succeed. And one of my questions also, because you're a Willow Tree Academy, and it's a 4-school trust. So, and one of the things you're saying there is with the CPD, I'm guessing that this provision isn't just for the schools in the trust. It's a wider provision that any schools in the area can access?
Yes. Yeah, absolutely.
So what will happen is in Rotherham, there's a primary inclusion panel, and in other local authorities. So we're working with Doncaster presently as well to look at the provision, to make sure that the provision is right for the child. And we've had a number of children from local schools that have accessed our provision. So you're right, the continuous professional development has been on a much wider scale, and the networking and the strength of that, actually. So other schools are reaching out, they're reaching out straight to us. Unfortunately, often the funding's not there, and that is a barrier, I have to say. because presently in the SEND system, all the resources are actually going into children with EHCPs. And what we would like to happen is that before those children, if this can happen, if this is right for the child, gets to the EHC process within the graduated response, we can attempt to meet their needs. And more, we feel that that's what's going to have to happen in classrooms anyway. We know this, don't we, nationally. But going back to parents, I think as well. So schools and parents have really valued that collaboration and that conversation, and more schools are wanting to be part of that. So, very from a very technical point of view, okay, what's the mechanism for this for the funding? What is the threshold for that? What should we expect within this graduated response? And often it's really important to say is that the parents do need a lot of support themselves, from an emotional point of view.
I think that cascades down as well. So in terms of some of the parental engagement, we're their biggest advocates, I guess. But for some, they've kind of fallen out, for want of a better phrase, with the system. They've fallen out with schools. They've lost the drive to send children into school, for example. We know that there's a clear link between SEND pupils, SEMH pupils, and attendance, low attendance rates. Many of the children that have come through the Leaf Centre or attending at the moment are persistent non-attenders or emotionally based school avoiders. And it's because of that it's a perpetuating cycle for these individuals whereby there may be a SEMH or SEND difficulty underlying. They're not attending school, so we can't unpick it, because then, and the longer they don't attend, the harder that gets for them. So then school becomes an unsafe environment. So kind of stepping out and offering it, this therapeutic support, and whether that's, through our forest school or our interventions, or simply by validating feelings and using the constant emotion coaching narrative, it puts confidence back in the child and in the parents so that they feel, okay, we've got a support network. And so then when it comes back to going back into the mainstream, you've avoided the EHCP cycle. You've avoided kind of elective home education or kind of educated other than at school. You've put them back into mainstream safely with a series of, tools, strategies to enable them to thrive and succeed. And I think that's a real, really key if you can make that difference to those individuals.
One of the questions I was going to ask is, are the children you take on going to be the children already with EHCs? But as you were saying, Jane, is actually the aim is we should be getting them before they get onto that journey, supporting them when it starts to go wrong, that early intervention, the early support that we all know works, but isn't always happening. Actually, if we can get that in earlier, we're not going to go down the EHCP route, which I think overall is the government's aim: earlier support, early intervention to reduce EHCPs. It's just not necessarily worded the right way or comes across the right way in the media. But I think that's the overall aim: is let's not fail these children for so long that they need an EHCP. Let's support them earlier, which is the same sort of thing you're trying to do.
Yes, and also that the provision meets their needs. So it's not just about... And there will be some children that need an EHCP, without a doubt. And we can help to support that journey as well. But you asked about Willow Tree Academy and one of our schools at the moment. So our strategy is to open a Leaf in all our schools, and that's on its way now. So the Leaf at Roughwood Primary School is for very young children. So because obviously in terms of special schools, there's not any provision for those children. And so that will be for children who may be on the autism pathway, and also who are either not ready because they've not had enough experience in the early years. They're not ready for Key Stage 1, for example. And so we aim to build a provision there for those children. That's just open now, that will fill a gap in our SEND system. We have a leaf at Rockingham School, which is built around a forest school, because again, we know that children's learning outside is something that is a really special thing to do for those that can't access a school building as such. And then at Herringthorpe Juniors, we have a leaf provision, which is an enhanced resource that children are taken to support their in a therapeutic way as well. So all our provisions are very, very different and meet the children's needs in different ways. What we do aim to do, though, is to make sure, and I think this is what every trust, we've had the support of the trust board within all this, is to say, right, okay, how can we best meet the needs of all our children so that they can learn, they can achieve, they can aspire, they are motivated and engaged. And that's what drives us. So the Nasen Award has just been a phenomenal event for us within this journey.
And I think in terms of the EHCPs, we've had children, we go back to the intent, that the intent will always remain the same, that it's that therapeutic step out. But I do think that, like I said before, that trajectory has changed and the ever-changing kind of picture of SEN and SEMH has changed. So we will support children who have an EHCP, whereby they just need that respite or not respite as such, but they need a little bit of step out, a bit of repair and restore to go back in and feel like they've just had a little bit of a breather, learned some new strategies, but will return to the mainstream. Again, we can support in the pathway to a specific specialist provision. We can be one of the stepping stones towards, but in most cases, our aim is to always be a stepping stone that comes backwards. We kind of do some restorative work in order to get back to that mainstream classroom and that enhanced provision or whatever that looks like.
I like that phrase, stepping out, is they are kind of stepping out of their school, but all the work, and Jane, you talked about the CPD and the outreach and kind of get that school to maybe change how they're doing things, how to support that child. So they're not stepping out and going, right, I've got to go back in again. Actually, what you're trying to send them back into is an environment that suits them better. That actually, it might be a few tweaks, it might be more, but actually where they were previously wasn't working. They've come to you, you're giving them strategies, but at the same time, you're making the bit they've stepped out from hopefully more suitable or more that they can access better. So actually, when they go back, you're not kind of like a bouncing in, out, in, out, in, out. Actually, it's come to you, you're giving them strategies, you're supporting the schools, and we want to reintegrate them back into mainstream.
You know what we are giving? We're giving schools time. Imagine that. Nobody ever has time. And I think that with that 12-week step out, the intense work that's going on is invaluable. But it's also for the school invaluable to go, right, okay. So I'm talking to the Leaf. I know that this child, this wasn't working before. So now I need to do X, Y, and Z to make that better. And this is how it's going to look. We're going to offer, change up the timetable or offer kind of step out zones within school. And every school is in a different place in terms of that provision. But there's always something that could be done. And giving them the time to do that will, in turn, make it more effective in the long run for for longevity, I guess.
And I think, it's important that schools are trauma informed, and that the strategies that we help them to put in place are sustained and seen as important. So having the strategic leaders on board, the head teachers and the Senkos with us is vital. And within our programme, we have midpoint reviews and endpoint reviews. But also the visits by the classroom teacher, the communication back to school is really important. So we found easy ways of doing that. So the class might send a little video to the child. We might do a little virtual call. The teacher will always come and touch base with the child. So they never actually feel that they've been abandoned and that this is the end of the journey. In actual fact, it's the start of the journey. So because we always say to them, our intent is that you will go back to your home school. It's your home school, and that sort of sets a different tone for what we're doing, and lots of provisions are about respite, and I understand that. But for us, some of the children that come to us, do have barriers to learning, often around literacy, which we make sure we put in that support for. But sometimes also it's about the confidence and that they can do, and so that's what we try to ensure. And when we get visitors from their home school, the teachers and the Senkos will say, "Wow, I didn't know the children could do this." So the climate for learning is something that's really important, and we try to impress on not just our Willow Tree schools, but any school that we work with, that the climate, the environment, the relationships are really what's key. Key to all of this, and making sure that endeavour that we talk about, which is relentless and tough, I know that is it, but we never lose sight of that, and that's what we're here for.
I like the fact that the teachers from the homeschool come to the Leaf Centre, because not only, as you said, for the benefit of the child, it really helps them that they're not being kicked out, they've not been moved on. It's a short term, they're going to go back, we're still keeping those connections. But I think for the teacher, they get to see that child in completely different context. This is a child that has probably drained them for a while. Yeah, they've been a challenge, they've been a work. Their view of them is going to be skewed by that. And they'll come to that Leaf Centre and see that child doing something, working, and then they might just go, okay, I'm not looking at that child. Okay, wow. And as you say, it can completely reset how they see that child. They're not just a naughty boy. They're not a persistent, disruptive child. They're not just that, actually, they can do it. We've just got maybe an issue with our relationship in how we're communicating with each other. And if we both work on that, this is achievable. Whereas often when they are like that in your classroom and someone says, oh yeah, if you just change a few things, they will change. They're going, no, they won't. But it's that chance to see change is possible, not that they have hugely changed, but actually the environment and things around them have changed. You're giving them some strategies, but it's often not the child that's hugely changing. It's the environment and the things that are happening around them and the way people communicate, and is the support there that they need is what's changing.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that some of the staff, when they do come and join us, they'll say, like Jane said, wow, how are we at a point where this child can have this two-way conversation successfully and I think it's more about observing the staff pupil and pupil to pupil interaction at the Leaf Centre, the constant narrative of emotion coaching. And again, that sort of language that just enables them to feel wanted and secure and cared for, because at the bottom line is they can't learn until their SEMH needs or their SEND needs are met. And so piling the learning on top of that, it just doesn't have the same effect. So going right back to the beginning and just watching, and then almost kind of the cascading of skills and you taking on those approaches in the way you speak with a child, or that it really does share, it really does impact. And it's really nice to see as leaders and as other members of staff go away almost like thinking, wow, yeah, this is great, I can do this, and when they do return, this is what it's going to look like and how it will look different. So that's really a breath of fresh air sometimes.
It is, and alongside that has to be also that expertise, doesn't it? And Faye and the team are just brilliant at supporting teachers and staff in school to say, well, these are some really, I don't know, not easy. They're not easy. They're not easy tips. I'm not talking like that, but it's around. This is some tweaks we can make to your understanding of how to de-escalate a situation. This is what adaptive teaching can look like. So we're not asking you to plan We're all aware of workload. We not have to plan for hours for individual children. But actually, with support, we can adapt our teaching so these children can make progress in the classroom, and that the barrier doesn't come down as soon as it's reading or writing or something that a child perceives they can't engage with.
Definitely. It's in some ways I'm not changing their minds, but you are kind of teaching them. I know you've been taught this way and this is the way you believe the child is and this is what's needed, but actually there are different ways. And sometimes it's you read something, oh, you just do this and you're going, hey, that won't work. And sometimes seeing it helps you, or sometimes someone coaching you through it of going, yeah, but you go, oh no, that won't happen because we've done this earlier. By doing this earlier, this doesn't happen then. That's part of the problem is the support, the resources, the things adapted to suit their needs weren't there, which is why what happened. So if we change it, it's changing people's understanding of actually the issue didn't happen when the child exploded. The issue happened half an hour earlier.
Yeah.
It's understanding those things. You deal with something in the moment. Actually, you need to get more proactive and making sure those bits are there, which is more work. But generally, it's less work than dealing with the aftermath of.
Yeah, precisely that. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think without organisations like nasen and sponsors like our sensational tutors who sponsored our award, alternative provision of the year is pretty important for us, but we know that there's somebody out there, somebody that's got our backs, whether it's individual people who are like-minded or organisations that are flying the flag, for what we truly believe in and what we are striving to do, with very little funding in a very challenging and escalating crisis. It's just so wonderful to know that we've got people within Willow Tree and beyond who will just give their all for children that are disadvantaged and children who are struggling every single day and who want the best for them. And it's just so rewarding. We're passionate about it, and it's everything that we believe in. So we won't give up. And I don't think, there's a lot of people out there that won't give up as well. But it's so good to be able to talk in this way, to get across, that passion that we really believe in.
And we all talk about the SEND system is in crisis, whatever the latest headline is. And yes, it's very not a pretty picture, but it's really great that the awards, and even with this podcast, that we can share what you're doing. Yes, it's not a great system at the moment, but there are people with ideas. There are people who are doing things that work and are making a difference. So it's not there's nothing going on. Actually, there's lots of amazing stuff going on. We need to share it. We need to be open to it. And you're not having money thrown at you to achieve this.
No.
You're doing this with what you can, beg, borrow, steal type approach, probably without the stealing, really. But you're making it happen in the situation, in the way you are, and it is working. And so hopefully people who listen to this going, okay, we were thinking about this, but we weren't sure. Hopefully it'll give people confidence to go, actually, yeah, changing a few things, actually 12 weeks, stepping out for them, having that time to make change in the classroom has a big impact. And not just for the child, but for the class and school as well, which is a ongoing impact that actually there won't be a child next year going down the same journey, hopefully. So it's not just you're having an impact on the children you're working with. That impact you're having is so wide. And it's great to share that. So thank you.
Thank you. And we are always open to work with other people, and please come and visit. We would love you to come and visit. We want to learn from others as well. This is us on our journey. But thank you for being part of that journey. It's wonderful, isn't it, Faye?
It is, absolutely.
I just my favourite part of my job, and people know I say this a lot, this is my favourite part of the job because I get to, normally I do assessment and data and I talk about that day in, day out. I talk about the boring bit. It's like accounting and you have budgets, isn't it? It's assessment data. It's the boring part. And that's what I spend my life doing. But when I do podcasting, I talk about the other aspects of education. I talk with people. I talk about the things they're doing with the children, really inspirational stuff. And I learn so much. So it is my favourite part. And the more people I talk to, the more I enjoy it.
We still have to do the assessment and the data. It's a big part of our job. Yeah, but it helps.
It helps. It's one of the things, you have to do it, but it's not the top of the let's talk about assessment. No one wants to. I get it. It's boring, but we need it. So thank you for coming on the show today. You'll find links to find out more about the Leaf Centre in our show notes and contact details. And as always, you'll find the show notes on our website or wherever you listen to the podcast. So thank you for listening to the show. If you're listening through a platform that allows you to review the podcast or give it a rating, please give it a little review or give it a 5-star rating and let others know what you think. And if you want to get in touch, let us know your thoughts, suggest topics or anything else, please message us on social media or send an email to hello@thesencast.com. The Nasen Awards, organised by Nasen, celebrate outstanding contributions to the education support of children and young people with SEND. These annual awards recognise individual schools and organisations that demonstrate exceptional commitment to inclusive education and the advancement of SEND practices. Nasen is a charitable organisation that supports children and young people with SEND, and Nasen's goals include influencing government policy, providing information, training and resources to support practitioners, and contributing to the debate and affecting change to improve outcomes for children and young people. You will find links in the show notes to find out more about the work Nasen does, their CPD and events. So thank you for listening. We'll be back soon with another episode of the Zencast. It is goodbye from me.
Goodbye.
Goodbye. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.